Welcome to Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. We crack the code so you don't have to.
Welcome to the Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. I'm here with another dear friend that I've known now for many, many years, Judge Bill Whitehill. Judge, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
So you're a judge, and in Texas, they have the commissioner's court, and they call them judges too. But I always have to tell people they're not like a legal judge. They're not Bill Whitehill judge. But
well, no, the commissioner's court is really the local county city council, if you will. The county judge has some minimal judicial potential responsibilities. That happens more so in the very rural counties, in the very urban counties like Dallas and Harris County. No.
But I have to tell my friends, you're a real judge.
I am a real judge with a lot of power in some areas and no power in a lot of others.
Sure. So just to describe why you're on the program, because you're not dealing with criminal cases and people having misdeeds per se individually. But you're the judge for the First Division of the Texas Business Court, which is a new court system. But before we go and talk about that, you also are the justice for the Texas 5th District Court of Appeals. So you have a lot of experience being a judge. But Texas has something special, and I want you to tell, and part of the reason I want to have you on is because when we talk about the business community, particularly in Texas, this special new court system is absolutely revolutionary in many ways. But I have to say why it's important. So in Texas is a huge state. Now, $2.77 trillion is the size of the Texas economy, home to 54 Fortune 500 companies and hundreds of other companies that are really large in billions of dollars. In fact, you think HEB is a 40-something billion dollar company, one of the top 10 largest privately owned companies in the country. But it has a huge business community. It's the best state for business 21 years running. And on and on. It's one of the top exporting states 23 years in a row. It's just a massive, massive business community, which leads to you and why we have this new business court system. But tell us what this new business court is, why it's important, why did the state create it, how did it evolve?
Well, there's a lot of questions there, and I'll try to remember them. The Texas Business Court, I like to say we're a startup enterprise, and we're well on our way to being an important, critical part of the business environment in the state of Texas. It exists because of some of the information you just talked about, what an impactful state Texas is in terms of its economy. Dallas, for example, is now regarded as the nation's second most important financial center, soon to become the most important financial center in America, which will make it one of the most important financial centers in the world. And it's happening right here in Dallas, Texas. A lot of economic activity. Whenever you create a lot of economic activity and bring a lot of businesses into your jurisdiction, inevitably, there are going to be disputes.
Sure.
Right? So to make the business environment work, you have to have an effective, efficient dispute resolution system that can handle these disputes, not only be efficient, but be predictable, certain, economic, and all those kind of things. It's very critical to the business people that come here. So because Texas is a very big state economically, it's a very big state population-wise, well over 30 million people. 5 of the largest urban areas in the state are not necessarily in this order, but Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Fort Worth, and Dallas. Those 5 cities are in the top 12 largest cities in America. A lot of other things happen in the court system. Criminal cases, divorce cases, slip and fall cases, personal injury cases, what have you. In Dallas County, for example, a typical district judge will have well over 2,500 cases on his or her docket at any point in time.
Wow.
About over 2,000 in Collin County, just to our north. In Harris County, it's going to be over 3,500 cases on their docket at any point in time. And that's just the civil judges.
Right.
So it takes a long time for those judges to process cases. Mm-hmm. If it's a complex business case like we handle, it can take a really long time. They don't have the resources in terms of staff lawyers, personnel to dig into them. So there was a huge backlog in terms of resolving these complex business cases. For example, our Office of Court Administration is sort of the back office for the court system in Texas. Right. They keep a lot of statistics. One of the statistics they didn't keep until we got created was how long was it going to take for one of our type cases to actually go to trial in Dallas or Houston. But anecdotally, the best we've been able to figure out, it would take at least 4 years for in Dallas County for one of our type cases to go to trial. In Harris County, it's 6 years or more. Time. And I was visiting with some lawyers from Houston who were trying to get a continuance of some hearing in the case because one of the lawyers was about to go to trial that had been in a case pending for 6 years. And I said, that's why we have the business court. He said, yes, that's why we have the business court.
So let me ask you this, and I did change your thought, but so these big complex business cases of millions of dollars were stuck in the same court system with other civil cases and the like in these general district courts, presumably.
Correct.
And so the judges were having to go from some other local small issue to these big, gigantic, complex business issues and having to wait as long as 6 years to have their case heard in court. Is what you're...
No, that's exactly right. And for public corporations in particular, but all businesses, that's a huge problem. If you're a public corporation and the case involves material issues, you have to report on them every year. Absolutely. You're consuming the resources of your employees in depositions and discovery and motions and just the turmoil that it creates to have one of these cases going. So the business community really demanded, if you're going to go out of your way and make Texas the place to do business, you need to do something to allow us to process these cases faster and with more certainty. One of the things that is and this is not a criticism of the district judges, but most of them don't necessarily have a background in business. They don't understand the concepts, the vocabulary. And so one of the things that the governor and the legislature wanted to do with the business court was make sure that the judges know what people are talking about.
You know, and what's neat is that I'm looking around the room as we speak, but we're in your office, we're in your court.
We are.
Which is a boardroom.
Exactly.
Right? It's not the traditional court that people see on television, right? This is a place where businesses come to get issues resolved. You moving them quicker. We have your new emblem here on the wall, but you've taken a different approach to how you resolve these issues. Plus, you have the background and experience.
No, that's exactly right. And I'm very excited to be in a boardroom environment.
Right.
Because one of the things I wanted to accomplish was we're dealing with business people, and they will be more comfortable in a business environment. I wanted to create a familiarity and a lack of the formality necessarily that you see in a courtroom. For example, we will do all of our non-jury stuff either here or in classrooms at SMU. We'll talk about our affiliation with SMU a little bit later on. But as a judge, I don't believe in having a bench. I don't believe in wearing a robe because those things are intentional communication barriers. They're designed to intimidate. And I'm not going to intimidate any CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Well, it sounds like in the end, though, the goal is just to get a resolution versus to go through kind of those pomp and circumstances. It's like, let's get to an issue, let's move on. Right?
Yes, and we're doing a lot of things here in my chambers to accomplish that. So think of, in the federal court system here in Texas, it's known as the rocket docket. The federal judges like to get their cases moving and tried quickly. My docket is the hypersonic docket. So we're trying to move really fast. And we're trying to, in practice, I spent 33 years at a firm in Texas called Gardner Wynn Sewell, which was one of the state's largest law firms, handling these types of cases. Spent 6 years on the Court of Appeals, left there, and then went to a mid-sized Dallas firm that had a national commercial litigation practice. And they asked me to do their appellate section and mentor young lawyers. But through that, I developed that there won't be a type of case that will come before me that I didn't handle at least once in private practice. But in that sense, I saw how these complex cases go flying off the rails.
Right.
The problems that develop and why they can take so long. I also did a lot of arbitration as an advocate and as an arbitrator, and saw some of the tools that they use in arbitration to move things along. And we've incorporated a lot of those. So a party's experience in my chamber will be a combination, if you will, a federal rocket docket and a lot of the informality and let's get things done attitude that we have in arbitration.
Now, and that's good. I want to take a moment to highlight that. So the question that anyone will ask if they're a new business either moving into the state or maybe a small business here in the state, why should they care? It feels like a potential political thing or something different, and it's not. It's great. Let's get, as you mentioned, let's get these issues resolved and moved on so that everyone can get back to doing their business and not spend as much money waiting maybe 6 years for a case to come up. So it's an incredible opportunity for businesses as well as our judicial system to not be bogged down in getting these items resolved, right?
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I said, we talked a little bit earlier about the reporting requirements for public companies. Right. Or if you have complex loan commitments, you're going to have to do the same type of reporting responsibilities of disclosure. The things that we are doing generally as the business court and that I'm doing in my chambers, I think we'll be able to remove hundreds of thousands of dollars, in some cases maybe millions of dollars out of the process in just what I'd consider to be unnecessary transaction costs.
That's incredible.
Because the goal is to identify issues and get them resolved as quickly as possible. And in a minute, we can talk about some of the ways that we're doing that.
Well, and now you're speaking their language, right? ROI, what's the return on their investment of time in these legal processes, right? At least from that perspective, let's reduce the cost and get them resolved. So the business court was approved by legislation in 23, and I guess began around 24 in practice. And now these are being stood up. The judges have all been placed. As you mentioned, 11 districts are around.
Well, there are 11
divisions.
districts that the legislature created. 5 of them have been funded and are operational.
Fantastic.
They're in the major urban areas around Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and Fort Worth. There are 6 others that are out there, and the legislature reserved the ability to fund later on. I'm hopeful that some of those will be opened up.
Nice.
And allow them to do that. In the last legislature, so the Houston division, if you will, didn't originally include Montgomery County.
Okay.
And the significance of Montgomery County is that's where the Woodlands is, and a bunch of those Fortune 500 companies, including the major oil companies, are located. So the last legislature moved Montgomery County into the Houston division. Okay. They also moved Bastrop County into the Austin division, and Tesla's in Bastrop County.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I was with someone from Bastrop the other day. If anyone hadn't heard of it, it's like significant now here in the state. But when I look at and I'd love to have you talk more about kind of the logistics of the court and how you're innovating in the court to make it work well. And one of the things we spoke about as kind of a founder-ish of setting this up from an operational standpoint, you're creating this as you go, and you're trying to make sure we refine it and make sure that it works well, which is a huge task. We discussed, it's like starting a business. Anytime you start a business, there's a huge responsibility in trying to figure out the best way to make it work. But just, again, kind of the scope of the state, as I mentioned earlier, if we were our own country in Texas, it would be the 8th largest economy in the world.
That's right. Larger than Russia, South Korea, Australia.
Amazing. Absolutely incredible. As a state within the states, we're the 2nd largest in population, only behind California, the 2nd largest in land, only behind Alaska.
That's right.
So to get across the state will take you 10 hours in either direction plus. To go from Dallas to El Paso and then down south, it's just an incredible size state.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people don't realize that El Paso is closer to San Diego than it is to Houston.
And, interestingly enough, I made that drive, and it is.
Yeah.
Once we got to El Paso, it was quick and easy from that point. But no, you're setting this up, Bill. So what is it that you look at as you start to map this out? What are you looking at to make sure we perfect the system and execute it well and live up to the legislation and the state leaders' prerogative, if you will, in making it work well?
So hopefully we're bringing expertise to the court. Other people will judge that, if you will. This was such a fantastic opportunity for me at this point in my career. I'm about to turn 69 years old. I've had opportunity to do things in the practice of law that virtually no other lawyers have an opportunity to do in terms of the complexity, size, scope, international reach of some of the cases I handled. But to have the opportunity to create something that our goal as a court is to be the premier dispute resolution system in America.
Wow.
And we're well on our way to doing that. Now, we're 30-something type of business court in the country, so we're sort of late to the game. Several states like North Carolina and Atlanta have statewide business courts that do nothing but that. Other states have some judges that have primary concern over business type disputes, but might handle other types of cases. But one of the things that happened because we were sort of late to the game is members of our legislature and members of the Office of Court Administration had the opportunity to go around the country, visit with judges, administrators of these other systems, and pick up best practices.
Nice.
And how are we going to do that? Now, the process of creating the business court took over 10 years from the first bill that was introduced by then Representative Villalba to the bill that finally got passed in the 2023 legislature. But that all kind of happened at the end of that session.
Sure.
Because believe it or not, there was a lot of opposition to the idea of a business court in Texas. And so as part of the legislative process, some things were done well, some things needed to be fixed. And then in this last session, some of those things got fixed. And in this next session, a few more of those things are going to get fixed, we hope. But what we're trying to do is squeeze out unnecessary steps, unnecessary expenses.
Right.
For example, one of the biggest problems that happens in all litigation, but particularly in complex business litigation, are discovery disputes.
Sure.
Parties will squabble over depositions or interrogatory, what have you. In just a typical independent party contract case, these parties can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on these discovery disputes. My mission is to try to eliminate those from our cases.
Makes sense.
And so as a business court, we've adopted a rule that the parties, before they can file a motion, have to exchange letters with the court, and the court can have an informal process to try to identify issues and do that. I'm more aggressive than that. And so the way we do things in Division 1B is before you start sending the hate emails back and forth and the nasty letters and all that stuff, as soon as you identify a disagreement over discovery, you call my court manager, Susan Fox Bowen. She's fabulous.
Yes.
And you say, we've got an issue we want to talk to Judge Whitehill about. My goal is to have an in-person or electronic conference with you in less than 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
And
that is very aggressive.
It is very aggressive. And lawyers are starting to figure out that when I say that, we mean it.
That's fantastic.
Now, we may not always be able to get to you in less than 24 hours, but this is proved very, very effective.
Wow.
And that sort of turns into a negotiation or mediation situation, because I've learned over the years that when lawyers have to actually talk about their problems in front of a judge, they tend to get simpler. And so why have that happen after they spent tens of thousands of dollars drafting motions? Why not have that discussion with the judge up front and squeeze that out? Right. Well, another one of the things that we've done to squeeze costs out of the proceeding is their procedure called a summary judgment, where the parties can say, Judge, the facts are undisputed. We're down to legal questions. You can answer those for us. Usually that happens in the middle or towards the end of a case.
Sure.
And I said, well, why do we wait till the end of the case?
Right.
Why don't we address some of these things up front? And so our court generally, and in my court, my chamber in particular, has very aggressively adopted what we call a Rule 166G motion practice, where at the very beginning of the case, I go to the parties and say, you tell me what you think are pure legal questions, and I'll answer them for you. If it's a contract dispute and you can't agree on what the contract means, that's my job.
Interesting.
You tell me what it thinks it means, and I'll tell you what the answer is.
That's a great concept.
And so parties are adopting this like fish to water.
Right.
And the goal is to streamline the issues very early on in the case so that the parties can arrange their discovery and subsequent motion practice accordingly. And the parties, the advocates, seem to be really, really appreciating this. It's hard to measure at this point in time how much money we're saving in the process.
Sure.
But I guarantee we're saving a lot.
That's incredible. A huge something that's seemingly that small having that much of an impact on the process, which is incredible.
Yes.
Yeah.
This rule was very rarely used. But before the business court became active. But one of the secrets that makes us work the way we do is there are 10 judges, and speaking for the other judges, the governor did a fabulous job.
Right. Highly
Highly qualified, very capable people. But we have far fewer cases on our docket.
Right.
So right now I have the second, as of last week, the second busiest docket in the business court with 29 active cases.
Wow.
Which compared to a district judge is nothing.
Sure.
But given the size and complexity, it gives us an opportunity to really be hands-on managing, guiding the issues. We can identify issues from reading the pleadings and bring them up to the parties.
Right.
And say, okay, I'm invoking Rule 166G. Here's what I think is an issue, and I want you to answer it.
Right.
Early on, it caught some people by surprise. But people are getting used to it now, and I think that's working well. Had one situation where a party filed a summary judgment motion, and I read it and said, "Well, they didn't prove their case as a matter of law, so I just denied it before the other side had an opportunity to respond."
That's fantastic, though. That you can be that innovative and proactive as well. And just kind of taking some of the extra out of the process that's unnecessary, it seems. Right.
No, absolutely.
And I think you mentioned this that you mentioned here, but then you mentioned a specific group that there was some concern about the concept of it in general here in Texas. But you're finding that the Bar Association is accepting it as well, and so many people now seem to be rallying around it, not just the business people, but the legal community, as it seems like an effective way to get these legal matters resolved.
Yeah, so early on, there was a lot of opposition in the Bar Association on both plaintiff side and defense side to the business court. Mostly I attribute that to inertia and status quo.
Sure.
It's something new. Why do we need to change?
Right.
Why do we want to do it? So it took a while to get people used to the idea that it is something that we needed. In Texas, we elect our judges, virtually all judges, through partisan political elections.
Right.
And so that creates a situation where different parties, attorneys, like to support their judges.
Sure. Right.
One of the important aspects of the business court is we're never elected.
Yes.
We're always going to be appointed by the governor, subject to reappointment by the governor, whoever the governor is at that point in time. So that was a shock to the system.
Right.
People didn't know what to do with that. People didn't know who the governor was going to appoint to the bench. Were they going to be qualified people, or were they going to be political hacks?
Right.
And so talking to some prominent lawyers very early on after we got appointed and we're opening up the court, they said, "Bill, we were hesitant at first, but looking at who the governor has appointed and what you all are doing, I'm sold."
Right. Yeah. I love it when that works out well. Like you've got very knowledgeable, very credible, very established group of people leading an innovative product and concept.
Yeah. So you say innovative product and concept. I view us as sort of a business model.
Yes.
We're competing in the dispute resolution business. We're competing with the district courts. We're competing with arbitration. We're competing with the federal court system. And to compete effectively, we need to be better than everybody else, right? That's the American way.
Right. That's so true. Yeah, I know Texas is doing even more, I think, in some ways to compete with some of the other states that you mentioned, including Delaware. Delaware is a state that so many companies incorporated just because their laws were favorable. for businesses. But now Texas has the Texas Stock Exchange that's launching, and the New York Stock Exchange has a Texas division now, and I know the NASDAQ is having more of an impact.
They're moving here as well.
They are, and then you have all these financial institutions as a part of these big companies moving into the state. So there's just this really big center of energy that's happening in Texas. So the timing couldn't be any better for all of this to be aligned.
Listen, the fact that the good Lord created this opportunity for me to be here doing this at this point in time in this location in Dallas, Texas, is just phenomenal for me. We'll see how well it works out for everybody else.
Now, and then you're physically located where?
Right now, we're at a conference room on the SMU campus.
Yes.
So part of what we're doing is I went to the University of Texas undergraduate, SMU Law School, loved every minute of law school, fantastic experience at the SMU Law School, and have practiced in Dallas ever since. In visiting with Dean Nance, the law school dean, we came to the conclusion that there's so much that SMU can bring to the business court can bring to SMU Law School, as well as the SMU campus school at large and the Cox Business School. So they're on a mission. Of course, SMU is known as a business-oriented university generally. Right. The Cox School of Business is an excellent, top-rated business school. SMU Law School is a top-rated law school. It has historically had an emphasis in tax and in corporate law. At one point in time, may still be the case. SMU Law School had produced more Fortune 500 CEOs than any other law school.
Okay.
Because SMU is right smack dab in the middle of the Dallas business community, and the Dallas business community is becoming the epicenter.
Right.
We've all kind of gotten together and said we need to have Cox and Dedman and the business court be affiliated in a way that can demonstrate SMU's commitment to the business community, business law, and create opportunities for students and professors to interact with the business court. So we have interns in the summertime. We have 2 externs right now. We have an opportunity to hire an annual law clerk that will look primarily to SMU, but not exclusively for that law clerk position, and not exclusively for the others, although the externs will probably need to come from here. I have an opportunity to guest lecture in classes. Students have an opportunity to come participate in hearings and observe hearings. We've got a big hearing coming up March 6th in a lawsuit you might have heard of between the Mavericks and the Stars. We're doing that at the big auditorium in the law school campus, and students will be part of that.
So they get to hear it live.
They will be witnessing it live.
That is incredible.
So also, as soon as we get all of our electronic AV equipment installed here, everything that we do in this conference room will be on our YouTube channel.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a huge believer in transparency, public access.
Is anyone else doing that across the country? Any of the other business courts in
I don't know.
States? That is
I
really
can't exclude that.
Fascinating.
So, we have our little mini version of Court TV here at SMU.
Well, but what a great educational opportunity, and what a great opportunity, though, for citizens to see it in action. Exactly. To understand how it works and what it means and how you're operating, how the court is operating. That's amazing.
One of the things that will make our court successful is if the business community, legal community, and the community at large have confidence.
Right.
That what we are doing is fair, it's equitable, it's just, but it's efficient.
Right.
People who have appeared before me will most likely tell you Judge Whitehill likes to cut to the chase.
Nice. So, Judge, tell me your journey. You mentioned Texas, University of Texas undergrad.
Correct.
You studied finance.
Yes.
And I believe you worked in finance before going to law school.
Oh, that's right. I was a finance major at the University of Texas. Love that. The education I got at the University of Texas and the business school was phenomenal.
Nice.
World-renowned professors, learned a lot. Had no idea that I wanted to go to law school or be a lawyer or anything like that until I got out, and I was working in the loan officer program at what was then Republic National Bank. It was the 5th largest bank in the country at the time. and I discovered that the day-to-day application of finance
Right.
Was not as much fun as the academic learning of it. And fortunately, my fathers typically know best. Yeah. My father had insisted for years that I needed to go to law school and be a lawyer, and I said, Dad, I'm really not interested in that.
Right.
That's for smart people. But I finally said, Dad, if all it takes to make you happy is I spend a Saturday morning taking the LSAT, I'll do it. Just leave me alone.
But Judge, there is a bigger story to that. You have older brothers as well.
Yeah, so
I all started in other industries and ended up in finance. So you thought, why go?
Yeah, my oldest brother went off to college to be a veterinarian. He ended up in the business school. The next one went off to college to be an architect. He ended up in the business school. Next one went off to college to be a doctor. He ended up in the business school. And I said, the heck with it. I'll cut out the middleman and just start out in the business school. Made great friends there. Met my wife in a finance class. But so much of what I learned there in finance, accounting, marketing, management, real estate, principles, I use on a day-to-day basis in my law practice, and I use it on a day-to-day basis here.
Right. Well, and here's what I find impressive. I know a lot of people come from different areas, undergrad to go to law school, but it's worth noting that you didn't start in political science and then go to law school. Like, you understand business. You worked in business even before going to law school. You understand finance. So when these businesses come into your court, you really get it. Like, you understand it.
Oh, I get it. I speak the language. I've done the financial calculations.
Right.
I understand basic accounting principles.
Absolutely.
I get the gist of that. Marketing is a big part of what comes up in our cases. And management, communications.
So marketing is one item that you say comes up a lot. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just in the sense of, so a lot of what I did in private practice was antitrust.
Right.
Okay. So understanding markets and how they interact and play and are developed, but how people go about understanding the difference between marketing and selling.
Sure.
Two different concepts.
Sure.
Marketing is preparing people to buy, and selling is closing the deal.
Right.
So learning about how people go about introducing their products,
right?
How they get people interested in them comes up in cases from time to time.
Very interesting. Now, you've had students already come from all over the country. In fact, I think maybe all over the globe to learn about your program and engaged in your program. Not only are you having the sessions where students on campus can join in the court, but then you have some really smart people that are signing up to become externs and interns and other members of your community. So
we just had an intern, if you will, from an incredibly bright guy. Stefan Heiss is an Austrian lawyer.
Yes.
Had just finished his LLM at Harvard Law School, which concentrates in corporate governance. Finished his PhD dissertation for the University of Bremen. Next month is starting to practice law at Sullivan Cromwell in Frankfurt. I was doing a presentation for Harvard law students about the Texas Business Court, and I mentioned economic liberty and freedom. Well, he's an Austrian, so his ears perked up, and he contacted me after the program and said, look, I'm about to graduate, and I want to come down and work with you for 6 months. That's amazing. And I said, why?
Right.
You're Harvard. It's a long way. I can't pay you. I can't reimburse you for expenses. He said, no, I'm really interested in what the business court is doing. I'm interested in corporate governance. I'm interested in Austrian economics. And when you said economic liberty and freedom, I had to come down and learn from you. And he was just a phenomenal asset to our court while he was here. But intern was not a good enough title for Stefan. So I created the position of Texas Business Court International Fellow for Corporate Governance. Wow. We're now working with Harvard and some other organizations here in the state of Texas to try to make this a permanent position.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not necessarily to pay them a salary, but to help with some of the costs of getting here. So I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to make that happen because we benefited so much from his outside of Texas experience and knowledge. But it's also a great opportunity for Texas and the Texas Business Court to project its presence into Harvard, back east, into Europe, into Asia, where these students will be coming from.
Well, and why not? Because it's a great experiment. Like it's, you mentioned other states are having, but what a great opportunity to get on the ground floor of learning something that's evolving and growing and having such a major impact already. I would love it as an intern.
It's fantastic. Texas, as we've said before, is the place to do business. And learning how to do it here is going to be an important part. Learning and the dispute resolution system, as we've talked about, is going to be an important part of the whole program.
Now, did you intern while you were in law school, or did you have a similar experience back in your earlier days?
Not with courts, but I did work with firms in the summer. Interesting story.
Yeah.
So when my friends were thinking about federal clerkships, which is a big deal. If you're doing very well in your law school class, you interview for federal clerkships. Well, we were married.
Right.
And we were broke. I mean, really, really broke. One of the worst days in my life, emotionally at least, was the day as a first-year law student, I had to call my dad and ask him to borrow $100 so we could eat.
Yeah.
Right? So I wanted to get out and get into the big firm and start making money instead of being a federal clerk. But we had honeymooned on St. Thomas. And it occurred to me, I said, there's a federal court in St. Thomas.
Oh.
It's the same federal rules as every other federal court. Maybe if I interned there, we could have a lot of fun and get the benefit of that. And I thought, well, all the hot shots on the East Coast would want to go to New York, D.C., whatever. And all the hot shots on the West Coast would want to go to L.A., San Francisco, and St. Thomas would be too far away. Well, it turns out the judge that I applied to died, and so there wasn't going to be an opening for the year that I would. But I learned that St. Thomas was the number one most applied for position in the whole entire federal clerkship system.
Oh, really?
So there are a lot of people have boondoggle ideas like mine.
So what happened?
It took them a while to get a new judge, and I went to work for Gardner Wynn. Great law firm, great people. I learned so much about practicing law and being a good lawyer and being a good person and being a good partner and a good business person at that firm. It was just
remarkable. Never made it to St. Thomas. Now, the Virgin Islands are fantastic, by the way.
So my wife and I go visit St. John every summer.
Okay. Yeah, that is funny. I've been to the island, and it's just beautiful. What is next for you as you continue ramping this up? So you mentioned the big case coming up soon, which has been all over the news. But just from a structural standpoint, infrastructure, like Wes, I know you're still building out the office and trying to get a more firm fixed location because everything is so new. But what's next on your horizon?
Well, I'll break that into two parts. Physical plant. We are going to be physically moving into the SMU Law School. They're in the process of deciding, are they going to build a new law school across the street from where we are now, or are they just going to renovate the existing facility and do that? I'm meeting in a couple of weeks with President Hartzell and Dean Nance and the head SMU architect to start working on our space requirements and how we might fit into the physical plant in those places. So that's very exciting.
Right.
The opportunity to be located really in the heart of the law school campus itself is going to be fantastic. The rest of what and so my goal is to get us up and running in this location so that it's a well-oiled machine, and then move this over to the law school campus proper and get it running as a well-oiled machine there. We're working. So one of the great things about the business court is there are 10 of us. We all have slightly different ideas on how to go about making this. So we have 10 independent laboratories.
Right.
So we share a lot of experiences on what's working, what's not working, doing that. One of the neat features we haven't really talked about yet about the business court is we write opinions.
Yes. Like
federal district courts do or appellate courts do. State judges in Texas don't write opinions.
Right.
They don't have time. It's not expected. Parties will file a motion and they get an answer with no explanation. Well, that's not satisfactory to anybody. Well, the winners are perfectly happy with it, but the losers really want an explanation. Right. And sometimes the winners are even curious. So one of the important things that we're doing on the business court so that we can be seen as a jurisdiction comparable to or better than Delaware is we write opinions on substantive issues of importance to the state and mostly In large part, those are going to include the corporate law decisions involving business organizations code and fiduciary duties and things like that, or other issues that are important to the state. So I'm looking forward to creating how we go through that process. One of the things we got done early on was included in the Westlaw system.
Okay. Yes.
For the business court opinions. And so I was asked to be the liaison there. Delaware, Chancery Court. They publish a lot of opinions. They have this well-established body of law that parties and lawyers can look at for guidance. We're not that well developed in this corporate governance area. We have great statutes, which are great. But so I was talking to the Westlaw representative, and I said, we want our opinions published like Delaware Chancery Courts. And they said, yeah, but you're just a trial court. And I said, yes, but we're the Texas Business Court, and we're a big deal. You're going to want to publish our opinions.
I love it.
And he said, okay, fine. And they came back in a couple of weeks and said, we'll give you all. I said, you publish Delaware 35 a year. And I said, he came back in a couple weeks and said, yeah, well, we'll give you guys 50 opinions. And I said, yes, that's right.
That's amazing.
Podcasts are so popular, even monkeys are doing it.
75% of Americans listen to podcasts monthly. That's 210 million people in the United States alone. And yes, podcasts are profitable. Joe Rogan is making $30 million per year. Your content, your knowledge is worth sharing. Don't just dream it, do it. Visit andycostafilms.com/podcast and turn your content into leaks.
Judge Whitehill, you mentioned Westlaw. How significant of a value proposition is that to be included? You mentioned Delaware has a lot of opinions, and you're getting your opinions, and this is kind of Supreme Court status.
Well, I wouldn't go quite that far. It's huge. And one of the things I do want to talk about before we're done is the new 15th Court of Appeals that was created.
Absolutely.
At the same time. So Westlaw is huge because that's how opinions get disseminated to the public.
Right.
And they have a system for what we call published opinions and unpublished opinions. They call them unpublished opinions. If it's a published opinion, it goes through their editing process. They assign head notes and case notes and things like that to help lawyers and people digest the cases and do research and all that. Their unpublished opinions are just raw opinions out there. In Texas, both of them have equal weight and value. But it's really important for us to be able to have the published opinions so that we create easy, accessible, researched law. For example, it just happened this way. That very early on, one of the first cases I had was a huge partnership dispute.
Right.
Private equity firm and partners. And we were the first case in Texas to ever write on drag-along rights, which are rights that an investor might have if they're selling out to make everybody sell at the same time. It involved some partnership fiduciary duty issues that really haven't been written on by the Supreme Court ever. Closest opinions were decades old. This was a case involving well over $250 million.
Wow.
The way the statute was originally written, cases couldn't come to us unless they were filed on or after September 1, 2024.
Okay.
But this case had been percolating in state court and federal court and state court for several years.
Right.
The parties did what they should have done, which is they reached an agreement and say, this case is teed up, ready for summary judgment motions. We want to get it into the business court. So they signed an agreement that said, we'll hold everything still. We'll waive statute of limitations. Everybody will dismiss their claims and counterclaims and go refile in the business court.
Okay.
So it came to me in less than a month, teed up, ready to do this. In big case, great lawyers from big firms. And we had hearings at the SMU campus, and that was so much fun. The lawyers are really enjoying arguing the cases on campus. It turns out most of the lawyers in our cases did really well in law school, and they like that academic environment.
Sure.
And so I have a staff lawyer, Philip Spear, who's phenomenal, incredibly bright, incredibly talented. I said, Philip, this is going to be the first substantive opinion to come out of the business court.
Wow.
And it's a huge case, huge issues. Law professors are going to talk about it. Law review articles are going to talk about it. The business community is going to talk about it. This has to be the gold standard.
Right.
This has to set the tone for business court opinions from here on out.
Right.
And so we put a lot of work into it, and it's an 81-page opinion.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's still a lot shorter than a lot of
Sure.
the Delaware opinions, but we covered a lot of ground, and I think it has become, I'm told by other people that it is recognized as the gold standard.
Wow.
If this is the kind of work that the business court is putting out, then we need to have our cases there.
That is monumental as the first one in your system. It's important to have those big achievements where it was well done.
Yeah. I mean, some of the toughest lawyer critics out there have said, well, that was really a good opinion.
Right. That's impactful. Now, having it published in Westlaw, does it make a difference on how it's perceived as case law? Like, does it influence whether it's published or unpublished or?
Well, virtually everything is going to be picked up by Westlaw. Having the opinion status makes a big difference. Okay. Because there's an imprimatur of importance that goes with it, the accessibility that goes with it. And so what we adopted internally is sort of the same dichotomy that existed in the intermediate appellate courts in Texas. Right. We have opinions and memorandum opinions. Opinions are supposed to deal with novel questions or the application of law in a novel and interesting way. And opinions are established law. I hate to say routine because cases are important to every party that's in a case. But we're not breaking new ground.
Sure.
And so as a court, we've adopted that. Now, all of our opinions are available on our website.
Okay.
So anybody can go find them, even if you don't have Westlaw. But being in Westlaw, other publishers pick them up. Right. They scrape them off the Westlaw site. Right. And do that. So
now, I'm amazed just from the visibility, the openness that you've shared, having your own YouTube site. It's not to me, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but not long ago. We didn't learn from the internet. We learned because my parents purchased the Encyclopedia Britannica from a door-to-door salesperson, or World Book, right? From a door-to-door salesperson. And then even in law school, you could go to the site or you have to look up in the law book, but you didn't have this immediate access to information. This ability to see it in action was just what you've described from YouTube and the published cases, just incredible access to information.
Yeah, no, I think it's, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I think it's important for people to see us in action.
Yes.
The vast majority of people in this country have no idea what a lawsuit looks like, what goes on in court. It's a mystery.
It is.
And I want to demystify it.
Right.
I want people to see that we are fair, we are efficient. Right. We do expect people to show up prepared. We do expect them to be able to argue their cases effectively.
Right. Like the only one they may have seen is the People's Court with Judge Wapner. And it's a totally different
what you see on TV bears no resemblance to real life.
Right. Now, you mentioned the 15th Appellate Court, and that you wanted to come back to that as well.
Yeah, no, that's another significant thing that the legislature did. In Texas, we have 14 intermediate appellate courts of appeals. So think about the federal system. You've heard of the Ninth Circuit or the Fifth Circuit. We had 14 of those. Historical footnote as to how that happened. The first ones were created in 1891 in Galveston, Austin, and Fort Worth. But the Constitution said you could only have 3 justices on an intermediate court of appeals. And so as the state grew and we needed more appellate courts, judges, they just added more courts and kept the number at 3. Right. Then that got unwieldy, and in 1979 they gave the appellate courts criminal jurisdiction, and then so we expanded the numbers. The 15th court came along; those are all regional.
Right.
15th court came along to be a statewide intermediate appellate court to handle all of the appeals from the business court cases, so that there would be a single court deciding the appeals in our cases to create this uniform body of law that we talked about. Before that, these issues might be spread around in different courts. In Houston, the Galveston court moved to Houston, so you had the 2 intermediate appellate courts in Houston covering the exact same 10 counties, and they tended to lead the state in inter-district disagreements, which is problematic if you're there. So one of the beauties of the 15th court is it's uniform law, but it's statewide. Very limited subject matter jurisdictions. You have the business court cases where the state of Texas or state level agency is a party, the administrative appeals, or where the constitutionality of a Texas statute is being challenged and the attorney general is a party, because those are statewide issues. And so it made sense to have judges, and those judges are initially appointed, but that are elected along with the other appellate judges around the state. It made sense to have a statewide jurisdiction and get those judges to come from different parts of the state.
Right. It makes sense. So if you were talking to a young aspiring attorney or a young aspiring finance major like Judge Whitehill was, or just someone looking to get into business, what guidance would you give them in their younger career days at building good leadership, building good experience? What would you tell that person?
Well, there's my personal faith belief, which is important to me, and hopefully other people will have their faith journeys as well. But I was visiting with Kit last night about this question, and what would I say?
And this is your wife, so
right, this is my wife, wonderful, wonderful woman. And I said, I think the answer is going to be find out who you are and be that person.
Right.
Being self-aware.
Yes.
We're all blessed with different skills and abilities, better in some areas than others, and that's okay. I spent 30 years at Gardier trying cases with a guy named Joe Harrison, finest trial lawyer I've ever seen anywhere, bar none, and a very dear, close personal friend. I spent so much time trying to be Joe Harrison.
Right.
Before it dawned on me, I'm not Joe Harrison.
Right.
I don't have his same skill sets, but I have some, I think, at least, different but very good skill sets.
Right.
And once I learned to be comfortable with that and to be Bill instead of trying to be something else, and then you have to have faith and confidence in the skill sets that you're given, and pursue those and try to accomplish with those as much as you can.
Right. And that's an interesting business Decoded tip, whether you have a company that's trying to mimic someone else, or whether, as you mentioned, you're trying to mimic someone that you admire and like, but you have to use your own strengths.
Yeah. That
you can appreciate what they've done and what they do, but you have to find your own way of achieving your own success. Right.
No, absolutely right. In a business standpoint, you need to identify your product and what distinguishes it from other products in the market, and then go pursue that product with excellence.
Right.
My wife accuses me of being a perfectionist. I disagree with that because no human being today can be perfect.
Right.
No business can be perfect.
Absolutely.
But we can be excellent.
Right.
Or we can at least pursue excellence.
And I say that all the time, not to use some of these sports people, but whether it's a Tom Brady, he never completed every pass, or Michael Jordan, he never completed every shot, but they were excellent. Right. And I think business are the same. They can be excellent. They're not perfect, but they can be absolutely incredible. Businesses and courts, same thing. Absolutely incredible.
No, absolutely. And the secret to being an excellent lawyer is the same as it is anywhere else, is identifying what you can be excellent at and then pursuing it. And it comes down to hard work.
Right.
Really, the difference in court, the law is law. Sometimes it moves and changes a little bit. The facts, there's not much you can do about, although you can do a good job or a better job of developing them and presenting them. But the difference in court is almost always preparation.
Right.
I tried a case in federal court over in Fort Worth with another one of my partners. And our opposing counsel was a guy who's supposed to be the statewide expert on uniform commercial code issues. And this was a uniform commercial code case. Well, my goal in every case was to know more about the facts and law than anybody else in the courtroom.
Right.
And so an issue would come up under the Uniform Commercial Code, and my opponent would say something, and I'd say, well, Judge, that's just not correct. Here's the answer, and here's the authority. We did that a few times, and the judge said, well, Jim, I thought you were supposed to be the expert in this.
That's amazing. And you're right. I've spent my entire career the same way. I wouldn't say that I was the smartest, but I was always the most prepared.
Well, that's the key. And because listen, I'm not the smartest, and as people watching this or hearing it will know, I'm definitely not the most articulate.
Right.
But if you're the most prepared,
absolutely,
you have a much better chance of achieving your goals.
Now, we usually don't speak about too much on the personal, even though I think personal gives us a balance in our professional and business career. But you mentioned your spouse. If I remember correctly, I think I met your spouse before I had a chance to meet you, and she's incredible. Great leader. But you all have been married. You mentioned in undergrad, and been married for decades now, and you've had just a great partnership and relationship.
No, that's right. Interesting story we don't have time to get into, and the circumstances that got us together, but we're coming up on our 47th anniversary.
Oh, wow.
3 grown kids. They all live in the area, all married, 7 grandchildren in the same area. And you know, that's just the one of the great blessings in life, is to have that family available there. You know, and one of the really amazing things about our relationship, of course, my wife is fantastic, is we just really enjoy each other's company.
Right. Huge difference, right?
It's
That's
a
incredible.
Huge advantage. So find somebody that you just really enjoy being around, because you're going to spend a lot of time around them.
I love it. Now, Bill, I want to end with this, but Judge, you have your office, and you have some artifacts here that are just amazing. I know some of the books out in your main lobby area, but can you tell us a little about those and what it means to you? There's historical significance from a family perspective, but some great materials.
Yeah, so everything in the lobby, which we're not seeing here, I refer to as the Bill Museum.
Nice.
Because everything out there has some significance from my family, from my career, practice of law, what have you. One of the things that's really neat out there is the trifold American flag that was my grandfather's service flag from his service in World War I. Just little artifacts from various cases that have come up that are memories. That there's a stacking bookcase, lawyer's bookcase, that my wife and I acquired right as I started law school, so I'd have some place to put books, and that's been there.
And the desk, though. The
desk is my great-grandfather's drop drawer desk. That's been passed down from generations, and hopefully one of my children will want it.
I think it's so cool.
Everything out there is, I have a really nice bronze Remington that Coopers and Linebrand gave me. I was teaching antitrust courses to their litigation support practice group, and they said, gosh, you know, cool. So that's neat. Just artifacts, but it's all sort of an antique 1900-ish feel. Sure. We have nice wood floor, Asian pattern rug out there.
And you're a born and bred Texan. I know I can see Texas all over the office here.
Well, I'm not born here, but
okay.
You know, but neither were Travis, Bowie, Crockett, and Austin, and all that. I'm not in that category, but the point is, you don't have to be born here to love Texas.
To embrace it.
I love Texas. I can't imagine living anywhere else. I can't imagine raising a family anywhere else. I can't imagine doing business anywhere else.
Yeah, it's an amazing place. Judge Whitehill, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing what's taking place in this new business court system. I appreciate your experience and your background and your expertise, and love that you were able to share that with other business leaders as they maybe ponder coming to Texas to bring their business.
Well, thank you. I can't wait to help get the message out.
Appreciate it. Thank you for joining us on Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman.
Stay ahead of the curve. Subscribe right now. We will see you at the next episode.